Imagine leaving your home for what you believe will be only a few months. You promise your family that you will return with food, supplies, and everything needed to build a better future. The journey is dangerous, but you know it's necessary. As your ship disappears beyond the horizon, you look back one last time, never imagining that it will be the last time you ever see them. 3 years later, you finally return. The colony is still standing. Wooden houses remain where you left them. The protective fence still surrounds the settlement. Nothing appears to have been destroyed. But something is terribly wrong. There are no children playing outside. No smoke rises from the chimneys. No voices echo through the streets. No footsteps. No signs of life. More than 100 people have vanished without leaving behind a single body. No graves. No evidence of a battle. No message explaining where they went. Only one mysterious word carved into a wooden post. Croton. More than 400 years have passed since that discovery, yet historians, archaeologists, and investigators still cannot say with certainty what happened to the lost colony of Roanoke. Welcome to Hidden Files. I'm the archivist. Tonight, we open one of history's oldest and most fascinating unsolved mysteries. To understand what happened, we first need to travel back to the late 16th century. At that time, England and Spain were competing for power across the Atlantic. Spain had already established wealthy colonies throughout the Americas, bringing unimaginable riches back to Europe. England feared being left behind. Queen Elizabeth I wanted England to establish its own permanent settlement in the New World, not only to expand the kingdom, but also to create a strategic base for exploration, trade, and future military operations. The responsibility for this ambitious mission was given to John White, an experienced explorer, artist, and mapmaker who had previously traveled to North America. Unlike earlier expeditions, this one was different. England wasn't simply sending soldiers. They were sending families. Men, women, and children willing to build an entirely new life thousands of miles away from everything they had ever known. In 1587, approximately 115 settlers boarded ships bound for Roanoke Island, located off the coast of what is now North Carolina. The journey across the Atlantic was long and dangerous. Powerful storms could destroy ships without warning. Food spoiled quickly. Fresh water became contaminated. Disease spread easily in the crowded wooden vessels. Many passengers arrived exhausted and sick, but despite every hardship, hope remained alive. When the settlers finally reached Roanoke Island, the landscape looked promising. Thick forests covered the land. Fish filled the surrounding waters. Wildlife was abundant. Fresh water could be found nearby. To many of the colonists, it seemed like the perfect place to build England's first successful colony. But beneath the beauty of the island was a reality the settlers had not fully understood. Roanoke was not an empty land waiting to be claimed. For thousands of years, Native American communities had lived throughout the region. They understood the environment better than any European newcomer ever could. They knew which plants could be eaten, where fish gathered, how the seasons changed, and how to survive when resources became scarce. The English settlers were entering a world they barely understood. At first, relations with the local tribes were cautious but relatively peaceful. The colonists traded goods, exchanged information, and attempted to establish alliances. However, misunderstandings quickly appeared. The English viewed the land through the perspective of ownership and expansion. The native peoples viewed the land as something deeply connected to their communities, traditions, and survival. Two completely different worlds were now forced to exist side by side. The settlement itself was not developing as quickly as the leaders had hoped. The colonists faced unexpected difficulties almost immediately. The soil was different from what they knew in England. Crops they depended on did not always grow successfully. Food supplies were limited, and the settlers had little experience surviving in the harsh conditions of the New World. They had traveled thousands of miles expecting to build a new beginning. Instead, they found themselves fighting every day simply to survive. The colony needed additional supplies. More tools. More weapons. More food. Without help from England, their future became uncertain. John White, the governor of the colony, realized that returning to England was the only option. He would have to leave Roanoke, gather resources, and return as quickly as possible. But before he departed, the settlers made an important request. They understood the danger of being isolated. If something happened while White was gone, future rescuers needed a way to know where they had gone. The colonists created a simple plan. If they abandoned the settlement, they would leave behind a message. They would carve the name of their destination into a tree or wooden structure. If they were forced to leave because of danger, they would add a cross symbol above the message. It was a small detail. A simple communication method. But years later, that message would become the center of one of history's greatest mysteries. In August 1587, John White left Roanoke Island. He boarded a ship and sailed back across the Atlantic Ocean. But waiting for him in England was a crisis that would completely change his plans. England was preparing for a massive conflict with Spain. The Spanish Armada threatened the country, and the English government needed almost every available ship for military defense. The ship that John White needed for his return journey was delayed. Then delayed again. The rescue mission that was supposed to take only a short time became impossible. Months passed. Then years. The settlers of Roanoke were left completely alone. Among them was John White's own daughter, Eleanor Dare. She had traveled to the New World with her husband, Ananias Dare. And shortly after arriving at Roanoke, she gave birth to a child. A baby girl named Virginia Dare. She became the first English child born in the Americas. For John White, Virginia's birth was a symbol of hope. She represented the future of England's dream in the New World. But he never imagined that this child would later become one of the most famous missing people in history. John White had promised his family that he would return. He believed he would see them again soon. But 3 years would pass before he finally reached Roanoke. And when he arrived, the colony was silent. When John White finally returned to Roanoke Island in 1590, he expected to find survivors. He expected to see familiar faces. He expected to hear voices. He expected to find his daughter Eleanor, his son-in-law Ananias, and his granddaughter Virginia Dare waiting for him. Instead, he found silence. The rescue expedition slowly approached the coastline. The sailors looked toward the settlement, searching for any signs of activity. But there was nothing. No smoke from fires. No people walking through the streets. No ships waiting near the shore. The colony that had once been filled with more than 100 settlers was completely empty. At first, the explorers believed the colonists might have moved somewhere nearby. Perhaps they had relocated because of problems with food or resources. Perhaps they had built a new settlement deeper inland. But as they searched the area, they found something strange. The buildings had not been destroyed. There were no signs of a battle. No weapons left behind. No abandoned personal belongings scattered around. The colony did not look like a place where people had been attacked. It looked like a place where people had left intentionally. John White examined every part of the settlement, desperately searching for clues. And then he discovered something carved into a wooden post. One word. A single message left behind by the missing settlers. Croton. The word immediately raised countless questions. Croton was the name of a nearby island located south of Roanoke. It was also the name of a Native American group that lived in the region. Could this have been the answer? Had the settlers moved to Croton Island? Was this message simply telling future rescuers where to look? Or did it hide a deeper meaning? Years earlier, John White had made an agreement with the colonists. If they moved to another location, they would leave behind a message. If they left because of danger, they would carve a cross above the name. But there was no cross above the word Croton. This suggested something important. The settlers may not have been forced to leave. They may have moved willingly. John White wanted to continue searching immediately. He wanted to travel to Croton Island and discover the truth. But once again, fate intervened. A powerful storm damaged the expedition's ships. The journey became too dangerous. The rescue mission was abandoned. John White was forced to return to England. He left without answers. He left without his family. And he never saw them again. Among the missing was Virginia Dare, a child who had become a symbol of hope for the English colony. She was only 3 years old when she disappeared. Her fate remains unknown. Over the centuries, the mystery of Roanoke attracted historians, scientists, and explorers from around the world. Many theories appeared. One possibility was that the colonists had been attacked and killed by local tribes. However, no evidence of a massacre was ever discovered. Another theory suggested that the settlers joined nearby Native American communities. They may have abandoned the English settlement and integrated into another society, adopting new customs and ways of life. Some researchers believe the colonists traveled inland in search of better farmland and resources. They may have attempted to create a new settlement somewhere beyond the areas explored by John White's rescue team. But without written records, the truth remains hidden. The disappearance of Roanoke became more than just a historical event. It became a legend. A mystery passed from one generation to another. A story about exploration, survival, and the unknown. And even today, more than 4 centuries later, one question remains. What really happened to the lost colony of Roanoke? For centuries, the mystery of Roanoke remained untouched. The empty settlement became one of the greatest historical puzzles ever recorded. But as technology improved, researchers began searching for answers using methods that John White and the original rescuers could never have imagined. Archaeologists returned to the region. They examined the land. They studied old documents. They searched for physical evidence that could reveal what happened to the missing settlers. One of the biggest discoveries came from studying the relationship between the colonists and nearby Native American communities. Many historians believe the answer may not be a dramatic battle or a sudden disappearance. Instead, the truth may have been much quieter. The settlers may have adapted. They may have moved. They may have joined another community simply because survival required it. Life in the New World was extremely difficult. The colonists were thousands of kilometers away from England. There were no reliable supply routes. No hospitals. No guaranteed food sources. No protection from harsh weather, illness, or conflict. A small group of European settlers could not survive alone forever. Joining a nearby Native American community may have been the most practical choice. The Croton people, who lived in the region, had knowledge that the English desperately needed. They understood the land. They knew how to find food. They knew how to survive in the environment. For the missing colonists, cooperation may have meant survival. Evidence supporting this theory has appeared over the years. Archaeologists have discovered European objects in areas connected to Native American settlements. Fragments of pottery. Metal tools. Other items that suggest contact between English settlers and local communities. However, none of these discoveries provide a complete answer. They show that interaction happened. But they do not reveal exactly what happened to every person from Roanoke. Another theory suggests that the colonists moved away from the island and created a new settlement farther inland. The word Croton may have simply been a message explaining their destination. They may have planned to wait for John White's return. But when no rescue arrived, their situation could have become increasingly difficult. Over time, the group may have separated. Some may have joined other communities. Others may have died from disease, hunger, or harsh conditions. A third possibility is that the colony collapsed because of internal problems. The settlers were not a trained survival group. Many were farmers, craftsmen, and families searching for a new beginning. They had little experience dealing with the challenges of the American wilderness. A poor harvest or a shortage of food could have created a crisis. A small mistake could have become a matter of life and death. In recent years, scientists have also used advanced technology to investigate the mystery. Researchers have analyzed maps, historical documents, and archaeological locations. They have searched for hidden clues that previous generations missed. Some researchers believe that clues may still exist beneath the ground, waiting to be discovered. The island has changed dramatically over the last 400 years. Coastlines have shifted. Storms have reshaped the landscape. Some evidence may have been destroyed by nature itself. The truth about Roanoke may never be fully known. There may never be a final document explaining what happened. There may never be a single discovery that solves every question. And perhaps that is what makes the lost colony so fascinating. It is a mystery that has survived for centuries. A story where history meets the unknown. A reminder that even in our modern world, some secrets remain buried. More than 400 years ago, over 100 people disappeared. They left behind only one word: Croton. And that single word continues to echo through history. Today, the lost colony of Roanoke remains one of the oldest unsolved mysteries in North American history. More than 4 centuries have passed since John White discovered the empty settlement. Generations of historians have searched for answers. Researchers have studied old maps. Archaeologists have explored the region. Scientists have analyzed artifacts left behind by people who lived during that time. But the final answer still remains hidden. The most accepted explanation among many historians is that the colonists did not disappear in one single event. They likely moved. They adapted. They attempted to survive in a world that was completely different from the one they knew. The word Croton may have been the most important clue they left behind. It may have been a simple message telling future rescuers where they had gone. A final sign of hope. A message saying, "We are still alive. Look for us here." But the rescue never came. And without support from England, the settlers had to make impossible decisions. They had families to protect, children to feed, a future to build. They may have abandoned the original settlement and traveled to communities where survival was more realistic. Over time, they may have disappeared into history. Their names forgotten. Their stories lost. Their descendants possibly living among other communities without knowing their connection to the famous lost colony. But another possibility remains. Perhaps the answer is not hidden in one place. Perhaps the truth is a combination of many events. Some settlers may have died. Some may have joined nearby tribes. Some may have moved farther inland. Some may have continued searching for a better place to live. The disappearance of Roanoke may not have been one dramatic moment. It may have been a slow fading away. A colony slowly becoming a memory. And that is what makes this mystery so powerful. The Lost Colony is not just a story about missing people. It is a story about human survival. About explorers who crossed an ocean with nothing but hope. About families who left everything behind searching for a better future. About the fragile line between success and failure in an unknown world. The settlers of Roanoke wanted to create history. They wanted their colony to become a symbol of England's future. Instead, they became one of history's greatest mysteries. A mystery that continues to attract researchers, filmmakers, and explorers even today. Because somewhere beneath the forests, soil, and coastline of North Carolina, the answer may still exist. A forgotten artifact. An undiscovered document. A hidden archaeological site. One small piece of evidence could completely change what we know about the fate of the missing colonists. Until that discovery happens, the lost colony of Roanoke will remain a question without a final answer. A mystery written into history. A message carved into wood. A single word that has survived for more than 400 years. Croton. This was Hidden Files. I'm the archivist. And remember, History is full of stories that were never fully explained. Some secrets disappear with time. But some wait centuries to be found.